Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court. My name is D.T. Van, and today I'll be arguing on behalf of Respondent Principal Belding. This Court should affirm the lower court's decision. Ms. Andrews' conduct does not merit protection under the First Amendment. Principal Belding did not violate Ms. Andrews' constitutional rights because, one, her actions do not constitute symbolic speech, and second, because it was materially and substantially disruptive to the school learning environment. In accordance with the Spence test, Ms. Andrews' actions may only be labeled speech if, one, she has intent to convey a particularized message, and two, she communicates that message in a way that is likely to be understood by others. Ms. Andrews fails both requirements of the test.
She was suspended for wearing a tuxedo. Is that something that we should allow?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe so, because first of all, Ms. Andrews' tuxedo is not symbolic speech, and it was disruptive. However, if this Court finds that Ms. Andrews' actions are not either symbolic speech or disruption, then she loses the case.
Is there a dress code at your school?
Yes, there is, Your Honor.
Okay, so you disagree with what the petitioner said?
I do, because even though there's no rule about a tuxedo being in the dress code, a school can't foresee what goes on in their school, and a tuxedo was disruptive, and schools couldn't foresee a student wearing a tuxedo.
Where in the record is there evidence that there is a dress code at this school?
I don't believe the facts are clear enough, or I don't recall.
The petitioner said that it was referenced in the district court opinion. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I do recall that, Your Honor. But even though...
So just so we're clear, the district court did find that there was no dress code at this high school. Do you agree with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So then you do agree there's no dress code at this school?
There's a dress code, but there's nothing that disallows a tuxedo wearing.
There is a dress code, but there's nothing that disallows the use of... What is the dress code exactly then? What does it say?
At Ms. Andrews' school, at Hendricks High School.
At the Hendricks High School, what does the dress code say in essence?
I don't recall what the dress code says, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Andrews' actions, Ms. Andrews did not have intent to convey one particularized message. Her motivation for wearing her tuxedo is ambiguous and unclear. In Spence, this court wrote that the student who hung a flag with a peace sign attached to it did so in a pointed expression of anguish. Even further, the student's motivation for hanging the flag is clear. To promote peace and nonviolence, he opposed the Kent State tragedy and the Cambodian incursions. Even though the flag did contain multiple ideas, these ideas had a strong nexus or connection. Both the Kent State killings and the Cambodian bombings were acts of violence, and the student had an intent to convey a message of peace and nonviolence.
But doesn't the timing here convey the message? I mean, we don't have any students wearing tuxedos to school, even though some of their relatives own menswear stores, until the student's photo is left out of the yearbook. Doesn't that timing illustrate that the meaning behind the wearing of the tuxedo was to protest the students being excluded from the yearbook?
I believe it does illustrate, Your Honor, and in Spence, the student hung the flag only 6 days after the Kent State tragedy. However, in the case of Barr, Ms. Andrews waited 3 weeks to wear her tuxedo before she found out that Ms. Andrews was excluded.
Well, the follow-up on the point that's made by the Associate Justice, I mean, her friend, Amber, her picture wasn't in the yearbook because she wore a tuxedo, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So that was deemed to be pretty significant, wearing a tuxedo to school, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so now, this other individual, Maria Andrews, wears a tuxedo to school, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So that had to represent some element of significance to the students. Students ordinarily don't wear tuxedos to school.
Yes, Your Honor, but I would disagree because Ms. Andrews had multiple motivations for wearing her tuxedo. She could have been promoting her uncle's tuxedo shop, publicizing herself for her student body campaign, or opposing Ms. Amber's yearbook problem.
That could have just been a fringe benefit, though. The primary purpose, it seems, is pretty clear that she was trying to create a message, send a message here, right?
I disagree, Your Honor, because these ideas did not have the same connection as in Spence. These ideas didn't contribute to one particularized message, and that is why she failed the first part of the Spence test.
So do you need one message in order for it to be protected or not be protected?
Yes, Your Honor, you need one particularized message. In addition, Ms. Andrews never even established what message she chose to convey. This is distinguishable from Tinker because the students who wore black armbands had a meeting, and they determined what message their armbands would convey, the Vietnam hostilities, opposition to that. Next, to pass the second part of the Spence test, Ms. Andrews must be able to communicate her message in a way that is likely to be understood by others. In Spence, the circumstances around the flag incident made it likely that those who saw the flag would understand the message. The student, as I said before, hung the flag only 6 days after the Kent State tragedy. And this was an issue of intense public concern. And that made it an unmistakable message.
But under Spence, isn't the concept that the audience just has to get the drift of the point that's being made? Isn't that the actual language from Spence?
Yes, Your Honor. And at the circumstances at Hendricks High School, it's very unlikely that anyone would understand what message Ms. Andrews was trying to convey. She had multiple motivations for wearing her tuxedo, and there's no indication in the record that shows that Ms. Andrews actually explicitly said that she was opposing Ms. Andrews' yearbook problem or any other specific message. Also, even though it's true that Ms. Andrews did feel very strongly about Ms. Green's yearbook problem, there's no indication in the record that shows anyone else shared the same concern. It was not an issue of intense public concern like Spence. And what's more, one of her classmates, Mr. Walter MacArthur, he sent her a text message asking her why she was wearing a tuxedo. This indicates that the intended audience is not likely to understand the message.
That was just one person who sent her a text message, Counselor. How are you going to say that everyone didn't understand because one person sent a text message?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Walter MacArthur can't be an advocate for a whole student body, but he's the only person in a record that shows any reference to Ms. Andrews' tuxedo.
Is there anything in the record where anyone at the school actually said to her, "Don't wear the tuxedo anymore"? I didn't see that. Did you?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. Mr. George specifically said to Ms. Andrews, I believe, that he warned her about how disruptive the tuxedo was, and he specifically said that was the reason why students were laughing. And he was implying to her that to not wear the tuxedo.
But he didn't actually say, "Please don't wear the tuxedo anymore," did he?
No, Your Honor, but he called it disruptive, so he was implying that Ms. Andrews should not wear a tuxedo.
If it was such a problem, why did someone say to her, "Please don't wear the tuxedo anymore or you'll be suspended"? I don't see that in the record. Do you?
No, Your Honor, but I don't think that changes the case because Ms. Andrews' tuxedo was disruptive. It did disrupt classes multiple times, but it still disrupted the classes. It stopped the classes. And in Tinker, this court has recognized that school officials may limit student speech if it is materially and substantially disruptive. Principal Belding acted constitutionally when punishing Ms. Andrews because her tuxedo materially and substantially disrupted the school learning environment. This school has an obligation to provide an orderly learning environment, and the need for discipline is as high during April when schools are preparing for the crucial AP exams.
Counselor, but what was the material and substantial disruption here? I know, doesn't it happen all the time?
Yes, Your Honor, and even though kids may be disruptive, that doesn't mean that schools can't prevent that. Schools have the authority to make sure that their classes aren't disruptive. Also, during the time when Ms. Andrews wore her tuxedo, the school was subject to a pattern of disruptive behavior. On April 22nd, Ms. Andrews' tuxedo was so disruptive that her chemistry teacher, Mr. Alvarez, had to stop the class to address it. This happened again the next day in Ms. Andrews' English class, where Mr. George had to stop the class on multiple occasions. Ms. Andrews' tuxedo was so disruptive that Mr. George had to take her out privately. He warned her about how disruptive the tuxedo was. However, she ignored his warning and wore it the next day when she was
Don't we have to balance the constitutional rights? I mean, students have constitutional rights, don't they?
Yes, Your Honor.
And suppose someone decides they want to dress disheveled to school because they're protesting the way the administration's handling the unemployment rate that we have in this country, and the student's father lost her job. So they dress in a disheveled manner to say that they don't feel the administration's handling things appropriately. Is that grounds for suspension? If someone dresses, let's say, where they have holes in their shoes and holes in their jeans and they wear a T-shirt and they don't take showers, is that grounds to have them suspended if they're trying to protest something like that?
Yes, Your Honor, if it is materially and substantially disruptive to the school learning environment. I don't believe
How could that be disruptive to the school environment?
Well, I don't believe it would be disruptive, Your Honor, but if it was, then it would be, the school would be able to punish the student. And the Tinker case, it depends on each case-by-case incident. It depends on how disruptive something is.
See, that's our concern. We have to think about the next case. So is that case I described any different than someone wearing a tuxedo?
Yes, Your Honor, because Ms. Andrews wore a tuxedo specifically to get attention for herself. The students aren't at fault here. Ms. Andrews is primarily at fault. She wore her tuxedo at her own discretion. She wanted to get attention, and that caused material and substantial disruption. Also, I'd like to address a few points made by the opposing counsel. He said that Ms. Amber Green's yearbook problem was a hot topic, but as I said again, there's no indication in the record that shows anyone else shared the same concern. Also, he said that there was fear of disruption, but Ms. Andrews' tuxedo had already disrupted class on multiple occasions. There was specific evidence that it harmed the school learning environment. And at bottom, this case is about a school trying to preserve its learning environment. Regardless of whether or not Ms. Andrews' tuxedo is and does constitute symbolic speech, a school's main purpose is to educate their kids. This allowed them to learn, and this Andrews tuxedo clearly interfered with that learning process. And disruption cannot be tolerated, especially at school. For foregoing reasons, this court should affirm the appellate court's decision and Principal Belding acted appropriately in sustaining school learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you.